for us to have reached this point. Mine is a very simple task, and it should be dispensed within no more than 10 minutes. It's a one-slide work, highly summarized. I think there was a question yesterday in our iteration here as to where do we go from here. So we've tried to crystallize and summarize the journey from here in this one slide. Already you can be able to see where we are today. As we are concluding this Nbsap Consultative conference today, we have got a journey ahead of us. We're going to make sure that when we consolidate all the work, all the wonderful work that we have contributed as this collective, it then get processed to the intergovernmental structures. So in other words, we bring the national, the provincial, and the local government spheres to look at the wonderful work that this collective has done. And if you can imagine, we come a long way back, as indicated yesterday here. So on the 26th of May, which I'm sure is next week, we are going to have a joint working groups. We're going to have about 6 working groups of government officials across these spheres of government that I spoke about, who will then look at this document. And these are technical officials who should be able to then take the work that we have done and process it in a manner that it can go on the 12th of June to MINTEC. MINTEC is chaired by our DG, who was here yesterday, and is comprised of all the HODs of all the 9 provinces who work in the environmental space. It's also comprised of all the CEOs of entities across our province and all the DDGs across the province up to the chief director level. So they are going to look at the work that we have done on the 12th of June. And then after we have done that, we're going to take the Nbsap outcomes of this wonderful work and all the work that we have done so far to the MINMEC. MINMEC simply means Minister and MECs. So meaning that our Minister, Vili Okamp, together with all the 9 MECs and the metro mayors, Salga, and all other participants will then consider this document on the 26th of June, which is next month. After all these iterations, and MINMEC has had a look at it and give it a thumbs up, then it is then the minister's prerogative to publish the work that we have done for public comments for 30 days. I think, if I remember, there was also a question that arose yesterday around wanting us to confirm if this publishing for public comments is going to happen. Yes, it is part of the process. So we're going to publish for 30 days, allow all South Africans across the length and breadth of our beautiful land to put their comments. And may I indicate that historically, when we publish documents for comments, we receive a lot of inputs from South African public. Of course, there are those who then put their comments in sort of a petition with one word or one line, and when they've put that one word and one line, they would then expect the department to respond to 2,000 of the people who were in the petition. It doesn't work like that. If it is one word that were affirmed by 2,000 people, we consider it as one comment. So that at least we know. So in doing so, we are encouraging every South African to really look at this document because it's our product. We co-created it long time ago, and we continue to amplify it as we are doing in this conference. And then after the publishing, then we'll do what we call looking at all the comments, consolidating them, and then do what we call SIAS. I saw the presidency is here with us. So we take this document to presidency so that presidency can scrutinize if the document passed the lethal test of the social, economic, environmental, and all the related issues that has to reflect whether it is a document fit for South Africa. So if presidency gives it a thumbs up, then it is then back to the hands of our minister, who then takes it to cabinet. And we are anticipating that everything should be ready by October 2026. And if you remember, October 2026, it's the same month, between the 19th and the 30th of October, we are in Armenia for the CBD COP 17. So which means it will be just on time for cabinet to then give us a green light to submit this document to the CBD Secretariat. And hopefully, when everything is done, soon thereafter we will publish it for implementation, which minister will put it in the government notice. That is a summary of the journey, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Ntate Matiba. I think the process going forward, it's very clear. We are going to continue with the program. I just want to check the next presenter. Before we go into that, Bunny, can I put you on the spot for now? I see you get worried. We're still waiting for our next presenter, but I think it is important that we explain the logistic for the gala dinner. And I was told that you are the right person to do that. People were asking me if there will be shuttles and all that, whether people will stay after the session for the gala dinner and all that. So I need a person to really... TDG. Bunny is saying it doesn't have that information, so. Okay, while we're waiting for someone to, oh, okay, thanks. Thanks for rescuing me. What do we do? Yeah. Okay. 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 Okay, colleagues, I'm going to open the floor for the last reflection. I know in the previous session we had to cut the second round of questions, but I think I would like to get more reflections from other groups. I think I heard a voice from people in parks, from our traditional leadership, from traditional practices, but maybe if we can get more reflections from those representing the wildlife sector, if there are any inputs from business, civil society, and more importantly, youth, if there are still some inputs, and any other group that will still want to make reflections. Our next speaker will be here in 20 to 30 minutes, so we still have a bit of time if there are still inputs on the floor, and then we'll go to the closing remarks. I think by the time we close, then we will know what will happen during the gala dinner. Thank you. Anyone from the floor? Whether it's on the processes to be followed or our previous discussion, there is one in front.
I'm Alana Rebello. I just wanted to raise another, maybe very unpopular idea around financing, which I didn't see mentioned explicitly, and it's around enforcement. So, enforcement of NBSAP. I'm not sure, there's probably people here that remember the original intention of the Working for Water program, but it's summarized in a really fantastic book chapter in a restoration book, and I can give the reference. But initially the idea was that government, DEFI, would fund the skills, upskilling and capacity building of teams who would then go on to be recruited or used by landowners to do clearing on their lands. In other words, government would be funding the skilling of these groups, but not paying in full for the program. And that was going to work when NIMBA was enforced and landowners were obligated to clear their alien trees. And in doing so, it would create a market for these teams. And so that's why there was this legacy of teams having to be new people that were brought on every cycle, because the idea was that the people that had already been trained would go on and be used by the private sector, landowners, government landowners. And that all collapsed because there wasn't very strong enforcement. And so the value of enforcing in terms of creating like demand or and therefore creating finance is critical. And I say it's unpopular because there seems to be a lack of willingness to enforce NBSAP. But for me, it goes hand in hand with creating positive incentives, is also doing proper enforcement. So I just wanted to raise this again because that can be very real financing on the ground. And we know that while it's challenging for some landowners, clearing alien trees and other restoration initiatives also brings benefits for biodiversity and for ecosystem services. So yeah, I just wanted to raise this point. Thank you.
Absolutely. You can take another one.
Thank you, Chair. Brad Nelson here from the Endangered Wildlife Trust. My comment actually follows quite a bit coincidentally on from the previous speaker's comment. And yes, it's about compliance and enforcement of that. It sort of stemmed from the brilliant presentation by DBSA, where notice that concessional funding is being used or is being derived and grants to support nature positive initiatives. But I'll just urge that financiers also be wary of developers using that funding for meeting their compliance obligations. So in other words, that ensuring that if they are getting if they are getting some sort of additional funding, and particularly if it's coming from a grant source, that it's not being used to finance what they are already obligated to do in terms of, say, the environmental authorization, or even what they've identified as a risk that could be to their project. So, for example, I think the example of the silting is a good example of that. It's a case where the developer, maybe not when that dam was originally developed, but nowadays should be quite aware that silting is a high risk and should be investing upstream within in the catchment to ensure that that doesn't happen. This shouldn't be a matter of something that is funded additionally by a grant fund. This should be something coming out of the developer's own costs.
Thank you. Do we have... I wanted to make some inputs on the first comment, but not necessarily responding on behalf of DFFE, but just in addition, especially when it relates to the extended public works programs, which I think it's one of the programs that really had a very huge impact, not only in DFFE, but I think in organizations such as SANParks. So I think there are also, besides, how we mainstream that, through SMMEs and all that, but I think it contributed in terms of, developing SMMEs, and some of them didn't even stay that long within these different agencies, but I think they became independent and they are doing some other works outside, conservation entities. And I know it's a question related to compliance, but I think it's even more than that if we had to measure the impact of the program. So for me, it was really a very huge program that contributed to job creations, to skill development, and maybe there might still be that component of compliance, but in general, I think it really contributed a lot. There is another one on the floor.
Greetings, Vincent from Bugelani Institute. One would hope for a very strong monitoring, evaluation, learning and adaptation as this plan is being rolled out when it's time to do that, particularly avoiding just reporting on outputs without linking it to outcomes. That's the theory of change that was created. There is a tendency in certain programs, then people report on number of people being trained or number of capacity workshops being done, and then you ask yourself what happened afterwards. Did the change take place? What new information came up? What surprised when positively or negatively? And most importantly, the unintended consequences that arose out of that. In some instances, we go to communities with programs and they say, nah, we've done this before. And when you look at how it was done, it was a 2-day training or whatever the case it might be, and nothing happens. So one would really hope for a very strong, thorough monitoring, evaluation, learning, and adaptation. Perhaps one could even go a step further and develop the social return on investment, financial proxies that speak to biodiversity. Then those proxies then can be used to evaluate programs in similar contexts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't agree more with that monitoring and evaluation. I haven't seen representative from WRSA. Do we have anyone? Very silent. Okay, do you still have any inputs from the floor? There's one in there.
Thank you, Chair. Roderick Juba from Green Matter. I was going to sit quietly and just kind of hide for the 2 days, but you did ask for input from the youth as well. So I'm not youth anymore. I handed my ticket in last year. But I want to make a point to say that the people in the room won't always be the people in the room. Right, so we tend to use all these complex terms and put together these very big documents that are difficult to work through. And we haven't really found ways to make that relevant to the young people and to show them also what we expect for when they come into the room. What do we want them to do when they join these conversations? And so I think my plea to this community of practice is to look at these frameworks that we're putting together and to make clear what we want the youth to do and then how we will make sure that they are capacitated to do those things. So to work with the universities, to work with the CETAs, work with the NGOs, and to ensure that this type of information lands properly to our next generation, and that when they enter these rooms, that they are capacitated to participate fully. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other inputs from the floor?
Good afternoon, all protocol observed to DDG and chief directors and all the political heads that are here, and the Makosi and Bokokono Umkul, and also the wildlife industry, people and parks, and everyone who's here. My name is Tabo from Bibland Parks Youth, coming from Free State. I just want to say thank you very much for this opportunity. However, the past 2 days, some of us have been arriving here very late, catching the whole conference in the middle. And I've observed yesterday in one of the commissions that most of the issues were dealing in terms of the local government, the provincial government, but there was no way it was involving community mostly, whereas all these impacts are impacting the landowners and people who are living adjacent. So mine now, it's only on the program that I see. It's losing its original main state, which is the working on fire. The past few months, all the fire trucks and everything was being taken back to the headquarters of the FFE. And knowing exactly that fire plays a big major role that is destroying our protected areas. So if there can be any mechanism that can assist in terms of the resource allocation and also making sure that their remuneration is well balanced, because they are playing a big role in terms of the protected area, because now we are in the fire season. So can that be also be considered, so that resource allocation being prioritized, as well as the remuneration of the firefighters, because majority is youth. So can that be prioritized, because it's playing a big role in our society? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think this has been coming even since in the morning. There was an issue on concerns around budget cuts related to working for programs, and I think working for fire it's also relevant in that. So I'm not sure if there is anyone from DFFE who can briefly touch on the working for programs, where we are at the moment, just to briefly. DFFE colleagues, I'm looking at you. If there's any information on that. I think I've touched on that earlier in terms of the contribution from DFFE and the allocations to different entities, and I think that program is still very effective, though there are those challenges I think that you are raising, and I'm sure DFFE is also looking into those challenges, especially on budget cuts and all that. All right, can we take two last questions? I'm sure there will be one, and then I can see we exhausted this session, but I'm sure there will be at least one pending question or input. Okay. I think, did you?
I see people are taking their bags and leaving. We've got a very important moment that is coming very soon, in about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to get a perspective from the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. She's come very far from Canada to be with us. And so we just thought that she will need to just give us words of encouragement and motivation in terms of what we've been doing since 2023 in developing our national biodiversity strategy and action plan, and also just to share some global perspectives, because she is at the heart and the center of what other countries are doing around biodiversity. So we thought this session we will tease out, and I thought I'll hear a voice from the youth, and I'm surprised that we got a perspective from someone who said he's retired as a youth, but we were looking for those that are younger, because tomorrow we don't want you to come back and you say they talk for us and without us when you are in the room. we have a cohort of new interns in my branch. They are sitting somewhere there, and we've deliberately brought them here. Some of them are only like a week or two with us, and we deliberately brought them here because we want them to experience what we are talking about. And I said to them when I met them yesterday, I said, there's no other space when you can get a better perspective around biodiversity except being here. So we've been ferrying them from Pretoria to here every day so that they can come listen to the voices that are in the room, but also for them when they go back to, as they enter some internship and those that continue the internship program, they're able to execute their duties better than if they were just sitting in the office and photocopying, except we don't photocopy a lot anymore these days. So I thought that we will hear. Ondwela, I'll pick on you because I see you. Now you're surprised. In the last 2 days, what have you learned? What have you had? Where do you find your space in the debates? Do you think we are on the right path as a country in developing the strategy? I know there's a mic somewhere. He's here. I'm right in his path. I'm picking on him because he's been with the branch for some time. He's even surprised I know his name because he thought I don't know his name. You can stand up and introduce yourself and what you're doing in the branch.
Thank you for recognizing me, DDG. Afternoon, colleagues. My name is Nechebera Ondwera. I'm from DFFE, Wildlife Economy. Being here, I'm grabbing a lot, but we had a lot to do to make sure that this conference goes well. So I missed some of the presentations because I was working behind the scene. But yesterday I attended the full conference. I grabbed a lot. I had things from matters from provincial government, from local government, and from communities raising their concerns. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Ondelwa. Where's Kuliso? Oh, Kuliso is just there next door. Just give to Kuliso.
Thank you, DDG, for the floor. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Kuriso Khomare, and I'm from the Chief Directorate, Biodiversity Management and Permitting under the Directorate Biodiversity Conservation. And it was very interesting to be a part of this conference because it gave us a look into what happens behind the policy and the minds that bring in the forethought. Because oftentimes as an intern, you engage the material from a implementation. So I'm glad to see that all sectors of government are involved in thinking up the policies and thinking up the direction. And not only just government, but we engage local communities, we engage traditional health practitioners and chieftaincy authorities. So it's diverse. By the time the paper reaches us, it's a full paper, and when we inform decisions on the ground as interns and the future of biodiversity, it is from thousands of minds that are cultivating a full thought. So this is big, and thank you for the door, DDG.
Yes. Unless you want to call you by name, I'm looking for volunteers again. Oh, yes, to the front.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether I'm standing as youth, but I'm still youth, but I've been around like people that are there and also coming from the department. So my name is Yonela Mahamba from the DFFE Oceans and Coast. So I think for me the past 2 or 3 days have been very fruitful in terms of the Nbsap Because I think coming from the science background, it's always been, initially, it has always been nature. And then recently we added the human element, like the socio-economic aspects of that. And then I think from this workshop, what came up mostly for me was the resource element, aka the finance mechanism in delivering those outcomes for nature and people. But also what I wanted to highlight is the complexities around coordination on the implementation of the actions of the Nbsap for effective outcomes on biodiversity. So I think for me, I'm looking forward to that. And also, I must put a disclaimer, this is the very first Nbsap process that I've been involved in, and I think I'm very grateful just to understand how the processes are carried out. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Yonela, coming from the Oceans and Coast branch and from the science side. And I'm sure you're going to give us a lot of information as we finalize the draft. Can I pick on you, Kok? Because yesterday you really appreciated us bringing you here. What have you heard in the last 2 days? Are you finding yourself in the conversations and really in a space where you may be able to contribute?
Yeah, no, hey, you just put me on the spot, DDG. Angvusele, greetings to everyone in attendance. Sivusele, the civil servants, Sivusele, the traditional leaders, all protocols observed. Maybe just to introduce myself, because yesterday I went straight into what I was speaking about. I am the president of the Traditional Healers Organization. I did speak briefly about that yesterday, that in the sector we are the oldest organization. It was actually interesting for me to learn that we have a relationship with the DFFE. You did say you signed with THO Nupata. I actually went back to my staff yesterday and I asked them, why didn't they tell me about this? Because I think I should have slept at a way better hotel, Pella, if, we are already partners, I probably should have came here in a limousine from Mpumalanga, But again, it's fine. And now that I know, we know each other, then we'll definitely continue to make sure we make that relationship work for us. We spoke with the executive and we really said, what, we really need to put certain things on paper and then present them to your institution, especially if you were kind enough to recognize us. So from the engagements, they were really fruitful. What we brought up yesterday, even as our comments in the breakaway sessions, is that maybe let me just roll back a little bit. So as traditional health practitioners, we are actually quite busy with something similar to what you're doing with the Nbsap. We are fixing our act, the Traditional Health Practitioners Act 22 of 2007. We had our first leg on the 29th of April, actually at the very same hotel, where we invited 300 THPs around Gauteng. Next week we're actually going to KZN, and we continue to visit other provinces as well. So what I noticed is that as important as these different documents are, but I think there's room for them to link more, even in our breakaway session, we spoke about the Nbsap is quite silent on even the Health Act, working into even the THP Act, because I think there's a link there. If there isn't, we need to make one happen, because us being here, as I think a lot of the people that spoke, especially those that are coming from communities, they kept echoing a word that even challenged what I said yesterday. When they address themselves as traditional practitioners, they say they are custodians of the land. They are custodians of the environmental wisdom that existed even before we had these beautiful systems that are now in place. It actually even challenged me, and I felt like maybe I was too thankful. Maybe I should have said, you need to thank us, you know. But the most important thing is for us to move this whole thing forward, coming from where the traditionalists, you know, with their understanding that they had at that time, took things and left them, and then now the new systems are coming into place, and we just need to find how we all work together. So from us, as the traditional health practitioners, we just want to say thank you greatly. We are learning, siyakula, and trust me, traditional healers are not the healers that, you know, a lot of people used to know. We are afraid to hold a pen and a paper. You know, like I'm saying, we are fixing
You speak very good English, I must say.
Thank you, you know. 2 degrees in, you know. So.
Wow. Did you hear 2 degrees in?
Yeah,
Yes.
2 degrees in.
Yes.
So, you know, we are now those traditional healers that can hold a pen and a paper and make things make sense, because that is the direction that the world is moving in. And it also would be a disservice to our own practice if we did not evolve with the times. So that is just us to say, please do not be afraid to consult us, maybe because you assume we will not understand what these engagements are about. So yeah, I'm going to be a regular here,
Yes.
because I know my limousine is coming, you know, and
But we need money to implement your projects first before you get in the limousine. Eh?
of course, now we need the money from you. You know,
find.
we are getting paid 300 for a consultation, so you see, we are still struggling, but we are also fixing our own processes.
Okay.
But there's definitely room for us to all
There
work
is, yeah.
together. So thank you
Certainly.
greatly. You know.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't want us to forget that we had exhibitors, and they are in the same room with us. I see Mr. Mafela sitting over there. Is that him at the back at Ingula? Mr. Mafela, you hear us there or at the back? And can you just briefly tell us what you do, how the department has supported you over the years, and what you are encouraging others to do? If you can just come closer. There's a mic there for you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Simon Mafela from Limpopo. I come from a land claim project. I come from Chiwura community. We have got about 20,000 hectares of land. And after carefully looking at the land, we decided to go for wildlife trade and ecotourism. And we decided to focus on wildlife trade, and we also focused on ecotourism, so we built 3 lodges. And out of the 3 lodges, we began to accommodate clients from around the world, from the US, from Europe, from countries like Russia, from Australia, and so on. In the process, we started off struggling a lot. We got some help from lead officials at provincial level on how we can come up with permits, because this industry is regulated. It is one industry where if you want to thrive, you have to be very closer to these officials so that you learn how to operate. So then in the process, DFFE picked us up. Sunparks also came in, Sunbee came in, and Sunparks also actually encouraged us to apply for game donation. We were approved for some game. We received buffaloes, we received elands, we received impalas, tsetsebi. Yeah, so it began it was the beginning of a thriving relationship between ourselves and this department. We've been helped in many different ways. Personally, I've come to learn a lot. You know, I've learned that alone you cannot really succeed. So partnership with different institutions, in particular working with institutions like Sanbi, where you learn from others. We were taken to learning exchange programs in KZN. We learned how people are actually dealing with issues of expansion of the biodiversity space, where we are increasing the capacity, the carrying capacity in terms of providing land for various species in areas like Hluhluwe and so on. So I came to learn from others as well. And as we learning from others, others were also learning from us. And today we really are very much aware of what we are supposed to do. Although we face challenges with COVID, we realize that it's not the end. So we also learned that in the process, when you are operating, you must never relax and think that it's going to be smooth. There will be challenges from the weather. There will be challenges from events or activities happening in the country and outside of the country, like the wars. If I can give you an example, the outbreak of the war between Russia and Ukraine. The first 3 weeks cost us plus minus 6 million because of bookings that were already there that were cancelled. And today I can tell you, I also have learned a lot from the UNDP. Our program or our project is part of the Biofin portal. If you go there, you will see they assisted us to put our plan there for potential investors to work with us. And we are getting people to come and try to assist us. And for me, I say thank you very much to DFFE for the support you continue to give us. And I think the most important thing is that we are also given opportunity to express our views. For example, when you look at the presentations about the funding and so on, you begin to realize it is important that we also focus on insurance for what happens in the projects, because we will have disasters. As I speak now, I am beginning to realize that the elephants can also be a disaster. And we have to live with these elephants. And we just need to become focused and strategize and say maybe as much as the road accident fund benefit from the people who are using the road, perhaps we can also come with an idea to say out of every permit, whether it's provincial or national, whatever, a certain percentage should be put aside to say in times of maybe foot and mouth disease, yes, you are able to deal with it.
That's a good suggestion.
In times of drought, you are able to deal with it. In times of floods, you know what to do. If these things are not there, then let that fund thrive, and then perhaps in future it can be used for other things to develop this industry. Yeah, with those few words, I want to say together we can do more. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I really like your last suggestion around how we can make provision for wildlife-related incidences. And you're talking about how about we look at the permit structure and ensure that there's a portion that will go towards wildlife management, especially to dealing with incidences. I'm not sure you did tell them where your facility is, because you just said you are from Ingula. Because we want to visit, maybe we can have our next conference there.
Yeah, we are located just outside of Mapungubwe World Heritage Site in Limpopo. We've got 3 beautiful lodges. Yeah, we at one stage have hosted the Sanbi Learning Exchange program. People from all the different provinces, we hosted them there in our humble lodges, and it was a wonderful experience. So yeah, we are more than willing to host you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My colleagues from biodiversity economy, they wanted to smuggle themselves into the program. I do understand the executive secretary has already arrived, and they should be walking her into the room any time. Maybe whilst they're walking her in the room and whilst she takes some water, we can have quickly the Biodiversity Mega Hubs initiative. Is it loaded? There, it's loaded, yes, thank you. Over to you, Lactatia.
Thank you very much, DDG, and good afternoon to everyone, all the distinguished delegates. I'm going to talk about the Biodiversity Economy Mega Hub. This is a project that we've just concluded, and seeing that there's an opportunity, we decided to grab it and just share a bit of what has actually transpired from this project. I know that many of you have participated in this process. We've just concluded this work in February this year. So starting off, I think it's important just to remind ourselves about the foundation, the policy foundation for this work, the biodiversity economy. We've been talking about it. I don't think there's anyone who would want to say they don't know about biodiversity economy. They are hearing about it, the first time. So we have our strategy called the National Biodiversity Economy, strategy that is helping us to actually pursue what we are doing in the space. This strategy has got 4 goals. The first goal is very much concerned about matters of ecotourism, with the second goal focusing on what we call wildlife economy, where you will see it actually profiling a lot of the game meat. I think you've seen a lot of biltongs that is being exhibited at the back there. You saw some skins of the animals that are in the exhibition. So we have a goal to actually support and promote those initiatives. And then goal number 3 is mainly focused on the marine and the freshwater resources. And I think you've received quite a number of talks around the freshwater and the marine resources from the colleagues. So it's also an objective within the biodiversity economy strategy. And the 4th goal is actually looking at issues of bioprospecting and the bio trade, including the bio-based harvest. You'll see as you walk through the exhibition, there is a stall where you'll see some art and crafts that have been actually built from our reeds. And then we have the cross-cutting goal that is very much concerned about securing and enhancing the ecological infrastructure for this sector. That's where we looked at our ecosystem resilience, because without this healthy and functional ecosystem, we'll forget about the biodiversity economy, because it is fully dependent on the biodiversity. So with this strategy, we have actually projected, because as an economic strategy in the biodiversity sector, we should be able to demonstrate its impact in terms of the contribution, in terms of job creations, and also to the GDP of the country, and also just generally enhancement of the livelihood of the society in South Africa and globally. So we have actually costed, and we have our baselines also in place. I know yesterday during the debate around the targets and the actions relating to sustainable use and the biodiversity economy, access and benefit sharing, one of the feedback that we received was mainly looking at the framing of those targets, whether they are smart and measurable. So we thought, let's share with you some of the information that we have that will really assist when we get into the review of those action and the target and indicators. So in terms of the ecotourism, our baseline is actually 91,000 jobs, and we really want to grow into 33,000 by 2036. These are the targets for the National Biodiversity Economy Strategy, an instrument that is going to actually implement those actions that we have discussed coming from the Nbsap. In terms of the game meat, we have a baseline of 104,000, and then we are actually projecting to add more, like 69,000 by 2036. In the hunting space, I know Mr. Matibe spoke at length in the morning after receiving an inquiry in that area. So in our strategy, we do have our baseline of 95,000, and we are intending to add 35,000 jobs. Professional services, we are at 15,193, and then we want to increase by 10,033. In protecting biodiversity, we are at a baseline of 21,395, planning to increase 15,000 and more. Then going to the extractive use, the harvesting of the wild species such as plants and the fishing. And I think we had a lengthy debate around this space, and it was also touching on issues of the permitting elements in that space. But we do have our baseline of 256,000 jobs, and we are planning to add about 40,000 and more. And then we have this initiative that I'm going to talk about, the Mega Hub, which is a legacy initiative for the Biodiversity Economy Program, where we are planning to beneficiate indigenous biological resources and genetic resources through creation of additional 130,000 jobs that will be attached to the Mega Hub project. And overall, the Nbsap is actually the NBES, my apology, I've been talking about the Nbsap since Monday. It's estimated to add a total of 397,000 jobs by 2036. I actually forgot my water today. I don't know why. Thank you very much, Neo. All right, so I'm done introducing the NBES, but now I'm going into the Mega Hub initiative. What we're doing with this project, we have undertaken this statement, the high impact statement, to say that with this initiative, we want to take the National Biodiversity Economy Strategy into high impact action. And I think the audience will agree with me. Yesterday, there were a lot of feedback that came from the floor around how we are doing. I'm talking about a program that has been in existence since 2016. We've got 10 years of experience in implementing this program, and I think we are best placed to make such a statement and a commitment that we are going to take this National Biodiversity Economy Strategy into high impact with this initiative on the Mega Hub, because we have actually gathered enough experience, and we believe that with this initiative we'll be able to actually scale up the impact of the biodiversity economy. And in doing that, we've actually concluded feasibility studies and development of business plans. And these were studies that were conducted across all our 9 provinces. And there's one province that has actually benefited. They got 2 feasibility studies because it actually showed potential for 2 mega hubs to be established in that area. So this was a process that was developed through stakeholder consultation process. That is why I said some of you participated. I'm just demonstrating the journey that we have traveled since 2024. We've concluded this year in February. So with this initiative, our vision is to actually have a situation of a cradle to market ecosystem designed to transform biological wealth into economic growth, conservation, and social inclusion. You will remember that our biodiversity economy strategy is not only biased to economic aspect, it does promote conservation and sustainable use. And of course, we are leveraging this initiative through the unique potential that we've identified from the provincial ecological strength while protecting the traditional knowledge. So with this initiative, we're not only profiling or working through enhancing the economic potential of our resources, we are also tapping into the traditional knowledge that has evolved or that is associated with all these resources that we are actually working with. As a mega hub, by its design, it is created to actually create a network of connections. So in other words, one hub must be able to connect to the other hub in another province. And overall, we should have a picture of a biodiversity economy mega hub that actually gives strength and complement each other. And of course, the concept is actually designed to also service the region. Our SADC will also benefit from this initiative. And what are we really trying to do with this initiative? We really want to capture the full value of our biodiversity. We know that there's quite a number of resources that are leaving our country in a raw form that have not, and in that process we find ourselves actually exporting value in that untapped value, if one could say that, in that process. So with the framing of the mega hub, we've actually come up with 3 pillars. That is the model of this mega hub that are actually focusing on the economic specialization and the value addition, because we've got commitments for job creation and contribution to the GDP. It has got an element of scientific innovation and the cultural preservation. You cannot talk about bioprospecting and you don't talk about scientific innovation. And then we also have a pillar on the ecotourism component. I think that is really important to also look into that. But this ecotourism within the biodiversity economy is actually tapping into those areas that are outside protected areas. I think somebody spoke about it. I had a comment to say, we are talking much about these formally declared protected areas. What about this other side? So this strategy is actually working with those sites like the ones for Chibuda, Mr. Simon Mafera just spoke about right now. So the model has got these 3 pillars, and within those pillars, that is where you see the respective hub as per the province featuring. So under the economic, excuse me, and value addition, you have the Free State Mega Hub that is mainly focusing on the mass cultivation of our indigenous biological resources, because we've done some studies and we know those resources that are being targeted for bioprospecting and biotrade. And we really want to come up with a strategy at a policy level that will assist in reducing pressure to the wild population. And we have identified Free State to do that. And we have Eastern Cape as a center that would then host what we called a multi-purpose manufacturing and processing facility, where that is the place where we will be able to process our resources from raw up until you get to a finished product that you can buy in the retail market and also export finished product instead of actually exporting raw materials. In the Northwest, we are going to be focusing on an initiative called the Wildlife Beneficiation, where the focus is more about beneficiating the byproduct of hunting or game meat harvest. Like after you've actually harvested an animal like your impala, what then happened to the horns? What then happens to the bones? What then happened to the skin? So that hub in the northwest would be servicing the whole industry in the country in terms of processing skin, tannery, and manufacturing of all those leather products that you see, the leather bag, and all the product will be coming from Northwest. Then coming to Gauteng. Gauteng has actually started off, we have a site, I think many of you know about it, it's called Faraday. It's a multi-market in Gauteng, in Johannesburg. So we really want to work into that space and formalize it and establish a facility that is at a standard that will attract both local and international consumers of those particular multi-product. And then we also have the game meat facility that will be established in Gauteng, because Gauteng is the province that has the largest population, hence has got legal game farms. So I think access to game meat in Gauteng, it's something that not everyone is able to access. So with this mega hub, we're actually going to facilitate access to game meat that is being produced in all the other provinces. Then going to KwaZulu-Natal. In KwaZulu-Natal, it's also a strong element of multi-market. So there's an area in Nongoma where we are going to also work in that area and formalize that market for multi. Then going to the pillar on scientific innovation, that is where now we go to Northern Cape, where we're going to establish a bioprospecting research and development mega hub that will actually assist in the research that is needed to work through between the scientific community and our traditional health practitioner to actually document and do work in that area. Yesterday, input came forward. They expressed their interest to partner with researchers. So we are going to establish an environment where you will be able to work with those scientists in that space, focusing on the traditional medicine. Then the Western Cape region, it hosts the traditional knowledge holders of multiple species, especially those that are endemic to South Africa. There I'm talking about resources such as your rooibos, your honeybush. We do have an exhibition there with the honeybush species. Those are species that do not grow anywhere in the world except in South Africa. And then we would like to have a hub that showcase and promote such in the Western Cape. Then moving on to the pillar on integrated ecotourism, of course, I think the program director did share yesterday about the strength of Limpopo in terms of it being the first in the country in terms as a hunting destination. Of course, we want to really capitalize into that space and create the international convention center that will assist in that space. And then in Mpumalanga, of course, we just want to enhance the ecotourism strengths of the province, just to bring the communities to also participate in this space, because there's a lot of land that belongs to traditional authority, community property association that could actually benefit from this. Overall, these hubs, they need to fit into each other as form of a biodiversity value chain, and is very much focused on community and local economy beneficiation. So, of course, we have also projected the investment requirements for this initiative. This is heavily infrastructure focused, because there must be building that must be established in order to have these business activities running in all these provinces. So we have costed it, and I'm not sure if I must go through all the costing, but this is what we have actually put together. The overall initiative requires about 64 billion rands of investment, and out of that, of course, we are expecting the private sector to actually come forward and bill out the 55 billion rand in terms of the infrastructure requirements, while the remaining support will be coming from government in a form of bulk infrastructure support. And then I think I've already spoken about the jobs that will be generated by this initiative. So maybe just to unpack a bit about this mega hub, I think I did try, but we've actually profiled them in a language that will make sense to the investors that we are going to be working with to invest into this initiative. For Free State, we are saying it is the indigenous plants nursery of South Africa's mass cultivation hub. And in the Northern Cape, we are calling it a Silicon Valley of South Africa's research and development hub on indigenous species. Whilst in Northwest, it is a South Africa's mega factory hub for high-value products from wild animals, and I think I've already spoken about that. We are saying no byproduct from our animals goes to waste. And in the Eastern Cape is the mega factory hub for product derived from our floral species in order to produce nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, and cosmetic products, including vaccine to curb a major pandemic. Yesterday, I think one of the speakers said, we are treated as the recipients. So there's going to be a hub in the Eastern Cape where you will produce your own product. In the Western Cape, of course, is the indigenous knowledge melting pot of the world. And going to KZN is going to be the traditional medicine hub of the entire continent of Africa, with isibai, siyavuma, commonly used by many cultures. So we use those language because through our research we learned that siyavuma, as much as all the tribes are using it, it actually originated from the KZN. Mpumalanga is the ecotourism mega hub of the Southern Hemisphere, where major airlines will meet, where small and medium tourism ventures will meet in one hub. Gauteng is the biggest game meat market hub in the Southern Hemisphere, and also a Faraday multi-market as a satellite of KZN and other provinces. We know that Faraday gets fed by medicinal plants coming from other provinces. And then Limpopo is a Lihutla, Koroni, Mutlangano Assembly Point, where the world can discuss matters of wildlife with authority and authenticity. I'm not sure, maybe the next Biodiversity Day celebration will happen in Limpopo and not here. I'm whispering. And then this is just the mapping of all the sites, and I think I'm not going to talk about them. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Lactisha. I thought that was a very important last bite for all of us, because now we have seen what are the opportunities that exist in our respective provinces. What is left is how are we going to grab those opportunities as presented to us here. Thank you very much for that. I was getting afraid that we are losing the room, but I think we're still there, all of us, and thank you very much. Our honored guest has arrived as we were waiting for her because she needs to be closing for us today. It is my distinct honor to present to you Ms. Astrid Schumacher. She was appointed the Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity in April 2024. And prior to that, she was at the level of an Assistant Director General of the United Nations, and she was also the Director for Green Diplomacy and Multilateralism within the European Commission in Brussels. And there she was then promoted a global transition to resource-efficient, low-emission, nature-positive, circular economies. She's an all-rounder. And she was also focused on increasing European Union's effectiveness in addressing international environmental challenges, strengthening multilateralism and international environmental governance, and working towards the full implementation of multilateral agreements amongst many of her other priorities. She also worked as Director for Global Sustainable Development at the European Commission, Directorate General for Environment, and in this role she oversaw international and interinstitutional relations as well as environment policy strategy, supervising the implementation of the European Union's 7th Environment Action Programme. She's just had her term extended a few weeks back, and in actual fact we were one of the few people to know first that her term has since been extended, and really we are grateful that her term has been extended because she is she's an adopted daughter of South Africa, if I were to say so. She's very passionate about this country. She's intimately involved with South Africa. Not that she was biased when she approached South Africa to host the International Day for Biological Diversity. She's also multilingual and will teach a little bit of another South African language. She's multilingual in English, in French, and German. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Madame Astrid Schumacher. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for this super kind introduction. Now you know all my secrets. I love South Africa. I come here whenever I can. That was not the reason why we asked South Africa to host International Biodiversity Day. It was actually, if I start with that, because we had the idea that we should have a host country. We always sort of organized it at our seat in Canada, Montreal, and we thought, no, we should go out. We have 196 parties. Let's find a country that can do it. But we had this idea very late. I think it was already March or February, March when we had this idea. And then I said, well, South Africa can do it. We will just go there. We will put the proposal and they will say, we make a plan and then it will happen. And indeed, here we are. So it's amazing. And let me start then maybe by thanking the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment for convening this important consultation. Of course, also then Sanbi and the city of Ekurhuleni for their warm hospitality. So it's really such a privilege to be here and to see a room full of people at this consultative forum aiming to finalize South Africa's updated National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. That's a mouthful, so we call it Nbsap, through a whole of government and whole of society mobilization. And that is something I really want to stress, and that's one of the things where South Africa excels. Let me say this right at the outset, bringing everybody together. Because, and this is also the theme of our International Biodiversity Day, we need all hands on deck. Governments are in the driving seat. They made the commitments to a series of ambitious targets to be achieved by 2030. Governments must lead, but they can't do it alone. Everybody has to come together, and I will come back to that in a little while. But so I really want to say that this, what I see here, people coming together from national and local government, indigenous people, local communities, academia, the private sector, I understand, just presented with investment opportunities here, international and civil society organizations, that is really an exemplary national push for biodiversity. You knew before you came, and if not, you certainly know by now that the NBSAPs are the main vehicle of national implementation of the Convention on Biological Diversity, of our protocols, and of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which is kind of a global action plan, global roadmap to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. And South Africa's soon-to-be submitted NBSAP for 2026-2035, I believe, and we've just heard it again, really captures the centrality of biodiversity to the well-being of the people of the nation and also, and in particular, to the resilience of your economy and your society. And then South Africa is, of course, a remarkable nation in so many aspects, but also looking at this really unique mosaic of landscapes, ranging from coastlines and wetlands to mountains and grasslands. You really have it all. You also, of course, have 3 of the global biodiversity hotspots and one of the world's most productive marine ecosystems. And at the same time, a really high rate of endemism, meaning that there are many species in South Africa which are found nowhere else on Earth. So all that makes your biodiversity really, really special. And today and yesterday, I believe you examined an Nbsap that includes pathways for swift progress for conserving ecosystems and species, restoring degraded landscapes and seascapes, addressing people-wildlife conflict, and so much more. And there are indeed many crucial pursuits. Delivering this Nbsap, I believe, will require integrated planning across government departments and sectors, of course, robust implementation. There, I say, adequate financing is always the most difficult part, and broad societal implementation. But I'm also sure that your government will spare no efforts in ensuring its full delivery. And I would like to highlight one thing that's really always very important to me, that when we talk about biodiversity, we talk about nature for nature's sake. We talk about what we owe the planet as living on the only planet we have, as custodians of the future of our children. But when we talk about biodiversity, we also talk about equity, about equal, fair access to its resources and fair benefits from its resources. It's one of the objectives of our convention, one of those objectives, and I hope Flora will not, it's one of the objectives we're struggling with. It's the one that really needs another push in implementation. But it is so important that when the governments look at biodiversity, they don't just see it as another cost factor, somehow, money to be spent. So an environment minister running around saying, I also matter, there's climate change, please do something. All that is important. But what really also matters is to be very clear that by investing in biodiversity and doing it right, and doing it in a way that includes communities, you are creating jobs and protecting livelihoods. And let's also not kid ourselves. We talk a lot about climate change. And only this morning I switched on the TV, and of course, the first thing we saw again were the horrible floods in the Western Cape and the lives lost. Yes, this is climate change. But climate change and biodiversity loss do not exist in isolation from each other. And by working with nature, protecting and restoring biodiversity, you also have a very good resilience strategy against climate change. So investments in biodiversity are always also investments in fighting climate change. And again, let me say that, in protecting livelihoods. Now, when I say that I'm sure that South Africa, the government, will spare no efforts, I also want to acknowledge, of course, other partners we have here in South Africa, first and foremost SANBI. SANBI was recently selected as the Technical and Scientific Cooperation Center under the Convention, so one of 15 of these regional centers, and as such, it will service the entire SADC region and underpin efforts in your neighborhood as well, and sharing South Africa's expertise with your neighboring countries. So in other words, what you're doing here, progress in halting and reversing biodiversity loss, matters greatly, I believe, to South Africa, but also matters way beyond that to your region and then to the entire world. Now, by updating the Nbsap in line with the Global Biodiversity Framework, South Africa is also joining a group of leading nations that are translating this global ambition, so the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, into national action. So as of mid-May this year, only 94 parties out of 196 have submitted their updated Nbsaps. So as you quickly calculated, this is unfortunately less than half of the parties to the convention. It also illustrates how much work needs to be done still around the globe before the ambition of the KMGBF is matched by this sort of tapestry of equally ambitious national efforts and actions spanning the globe. But I mean, one thing I think is clear, and I've already said, that biodiversity loss and climate change are interlinked, and they're part of one complex environmental crisis that are pushing ecosystems to the brink, and they're doing that very fast. And so I think for all of us working in the environment field, we always must also make that point, that this ecosystem crisis, the planetary crisis of biodiversity loss, climate change, land degradation, waste and pollution, is also a political crisis, increasing a geopolitical crisis, and the fact that our environment is degrading is also an important factor in the many conflicts we see around the world. So every country has a vital stake in safeguarding biodiversity. It is the foundation of all life on Earth, and everybody, every sector, and every individual must take action. And that indeed is the theme of this year's International Day for Biological Diversity, the IDB. That was the message we wanted the day to send. You see it symbolized on the left and on the right in this little fingerprint idea. So you have fingerprint here, but then the impacts, they're like waves. They're rippling out from the local action. They're always more than local impact. Acting locally for global impact is to be encouraged, supported, and upscaled. That's the idea. And on the eve of IDB tomorrow, I, of course, would call on all parties, and I hope there are also some representatives of the international community here, to accelerate the preparation and implementation of updated Nbsaps, just as South Africa has now done, and ensuring that these are aligned with the ambition of the Global Biodiversity Framework. We're just 4 years from 2030. It's a little bit scary if you work on the convention and you work with these targets and you see them coming closer. This is a universally agreed deadline to achieve those 23 targets, and I think we can all agree time is not on our side. So as we go to our next conference of the parties, our COP17, which will take place this year in Yerevan, in Armenia, in the second half of October, we are undertaking the first global review of collective progress in the implementation of the framework. And that will, of course, be a pivotal moment. It will be the time to assess where we are collectively, where we stand, what are the gaps. And I think it's a little bit of a spoiler alert, but I think we all know and we can see it around ourselves, we are not on track. So accelerating action, charting coordinated pathways, new partnerships for accelerated action, bringing in new actors, involving the business sector more than before, is crucial for this joint global endeavor. So in closing, I would like to quote the Honorable Deputy Minister Singh, who I think has perfectly summarized it in 3 lines on the script in front of me, which I will read. So I think he really said it so well. In South Africa, biodiversity is not treated separately from livelihoods and development. Healthy ecosystems support people and economies, while effective biodiversity action depends on people being part of the solution. This, I really think, summarizes the effort that you're engaged in and that we in the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity hope to support to perfection. I wish you every success in this, and I'm actually confident that you will make great strides going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for those encouraging words. I think we are further encouraged to hear that we are on the right track. And certainly we will add more to the numbers of countries that are submitting their Nbsaps before Yerevan, before COP17 later this year. We have come to the end of our consultative conference, but not much of that, and not that much of an end, because there is still an evening activity. We do have goodies for you, so if you just indulge a little bit, you might get very nice goodies tomorrow. So if you are here tomorrow, or you are not planning to be here tomorrow and you hear that there are goodies, you might want to come. So this evening, what is then going to happen is that we are having a gala dinner later tonight. I didn't get the details of the venue. Yes, Mr. Malete will announce that. So we have a gala dinner later tonight. And before we leave the room, I have requested that our paparazzi people try and get us a group photo. I don't know even if we can come here, assemble here in the front. because this is one of the stories that we are building towards what South Africa is doing or has done in the finalization of the Nbsap also. So I know I've queued our cameras, and maybe after we get details around the dinner, we might want all to come to the front and then have the room photo, group photo, and don't be left out, because you want to be seen and counted amongst those that shaped the Nbsap for South Africa 2026 to 2036. Okay, so that is Maleti, if you can announce the details of the evening.
Okay, good afternoon. Mina, I'm coming with good news, ne? It's about the gala dinner. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be very, very nice. So we are going to have this gala dinner at Terminal B. I'm told it's on this side, just close to where we had lunch yesterday and today. But then there will be ushers there that will be showing you where to go. We are going to be starting at 1800 at 6 o'clock. And I was just checking the time. It's about 10 minutes before 4. And I was thinking, maybe for those of you who might want to go refresh in your hotels, transport is still there to ferry you. But then we are hoping that by 1800, we will all be seated, because the DM will be there to welcome all of us. So those are the details, DDG, in terms of the gala dinner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of our consultative conference. And from this evening, we start with activities related to the International Day for Biological Diversity. So if we can all stand up. You can close the laptops now. Can close the laptops. We've had too much information overload. We've talked enough. We've contributed in whichever way possible. We can stretch our arms to the side, maybe even try and go on the sidelines, and then we go and we go back to the side, and we go to the front, and we start walking to the stage for the photo. You know, yesterday, Edward was saying that he's always wanted to be here. So make sure you take your photo here also before you go. But let's take the group photo first. If you can all come, including our exhibitors, if you can just come to the front. Our camera people will advise us how we're going to, should we be on the stage or on the ground? And can they dim the light? Because the light is really in our eyes. And Mr. Matibe says we must move the stage out. Please come. Please feel free to walk in. Yes, walk. Walk up. Walk up, please. We want you to be part of this. And then to the organizers, if they can just move the podium down. That's fine, yeah. The organizers, if you can move this.